Welcome to That's So Savvy, the podcast where we dive deep into the stories and journeys of remarkable business leaders. Join our host, Nancy Eichholz, a seasoned professional and experienced entrepreneur, on her mission to discover the recipe for business success.
Hello. Welcome to That's So Savvy. This is episode number 6. I am really happy today to have a good friend of mine, a newer friend, but a good friend. We got to know each other recently, and we'll tell you that fun story. But this is Justin Renfro. He is the director of strategic partnerships for a really awesome concept called Wefunder. He is a leading expert in early stage fundraising. So anyone who has an early stage company or is thinking about one, tune in quick, because you're going to hear a lot of really exciting things about crowdfunding and some really unique ways to fund your business. He's mentored hundreds of startups and captured top insights about raising capital. And we all know that one of the best ways to grow your company is other people's money. And he is great with that. His insights include pathways to secure funding, the mindset of successful founders, which is one of the things I found so valuable working with Justin, finding the right terms and raising money from the crowd, which is a really fun concept for all kinds of reasons. He's also the founder of his own boat business in San Diego. So next time you are in San Diego, California, check out Chill Charters and go for a boat ride. So Justin, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. I would like you to tell your backstory. Like, how did you get where you are and how did you get into this world of exciting funding?
I could start at a few different places, but I'm actually going to start at college. When I was in college, I started an apparel business called Stay Positive. I made Stay Positive t-shirts and sweatshirts and sold them to my friends. And it kind of became a thing in college where my extended network was rocking my Stay Positive gear. And I was like, entrepreneurship is cool. I like this. So I joined the entrepreneurship program at the University of Arizona and kind of went through a 1-year program around that was an entrepreneurship degree. When I was there, I was like, I want to work at a startup. That's my destination. As you do when you want to get into startups, you move to San Francisco, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready to take any job. And I actually started at LinkedIn. So I was in sales at LinkedIn. And so that was a cool introduction into the tech world, especially LinkedIn, because it's a professional networking site. So it gave me a lot of exposure in my early 20s. My most important lesson at that time was like, it's kind of cool to work for a startup, but working in sales kind of sucks. I don't want to be in sales. This like phone monkey business is not for me. So I quit my job at LinkedIn and went and worked at a nonprofit called Kiva. And Kiva is designed around facilitating 0% interest microloans to entrepreneurs around the world. And at the time, Kiva was launching in the United States. So I joined Kiva to facilitate 0% interest microloans to entrepreneurs all over the country. And I did that for 5 years, just running around, we did a Kiva City in Columbus, Ohio. We did a Kiva City in Detroit, Michigan. We did a Kiva City in Louisville, Kentucky. And we were going around basically creating these little hubs that facilitated Kiva microloans within their community. Loved the work, was there for 5 years. And when I was there, I talked to an entrepreneur on the phone that needed a small microloan. He was like, yeah, I quit my job. I moved to Florida. I bought a boat and started a boat business. And I was like, like that is entrepreneurship that really connects with me. I had never really connected. Like it was a revelation.
Right. Do what you love, moment. Right? Do what you love. And
yeah, you
follows.
Can just do that.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. You can just like buy a boat and start a boat business. That's something that you can do. That's like the beauty of entrepreneurship.
Well, now, were you living in San Diego at this point?
I was still in San Francisco. Okay. This is 2017. I moved to San Diego and started Chill Charters with just me and one boat. We just recently purchased our 7th boat, and we're entering season 7 of the saga. A bit of a boat mogul at this point, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, very cool.
A couple years into Chill Charters, I realized I wasn't totally fulfilled. I had these grand aspirations of a life out on the water and a life in nature and not being in front of a computer and not working at a tech company. I actually missed it. It was a little bit mundane to do the same thing every single day and work weekends. And it just wasn't the total right setup for me. So I actually rejoined my team that was at Kiva. They had moved on to Wefunder. And for the past 5 years, I've been helping entrepreneurs raise capital at Wefunder. And in a lot of ways, there's a lot of parallels between what I did at Kiva, helping entrepreneurs access 0% interest microloans, and what I'm doing at Wefunder. The main difference is the average raise on Wefunder is $350,000. The average raise at Kiva was $5,000. So while there's a lot of parallels in terms of like the spirit of entrepreneurship and the founder mindset and entrepreneurial ecosystems around the country, it's a much more involved, complex, sophisticated approach to raising capital. And the reason I love my job is I just love entrepreneurship. I love the spirit of it. I love the energy around it. I love the people that are attracted to it. I believe that you are a byproduct of the people that you surround yourself with. And I think it's cool that I spend 40, 50 hours a week, just like a sponge of entrepreneurs and founders. And it just gives me a lot of joy.
It's been fun getting to know you, Justin, and how I noticed even just on our calls when I was talking about my campaign that we'd start out the call, and then as the call went, your energy just grew and grew and grew, and it was just contagious. And then when I came to your session that you did in Louisville for a bunch of founders, I could have stayed all week in that environment. Every single person in that room was just amazing. But I'm thinking that most of the people listening don't really know a whole lot about Wefunder yet. So do you want to talk about what exactly is Wefunder and how different it really is? I don't know of anything else out there that's really, I mean, I know there's some that try to do it, but nothing that really does it the way Wefunder does it.
Wefunder really exists as a platform to help entrepreneurs raise capital from a larger audience. If you're to look at how a lot of startups raise capital, it's like you might go to your local angel group, or you might be looking to raise from VC funds. Generally speaking, there's a lot of rich white males. There's a lot of ego and arrogance. Those are tough pools of capital to tap into, especially if you're a female, especially if you're a minority, especially if you live in Cincinnati. There's a status elitism around a lot of the kind of mainstream funding mechanism, especially around venture. When you're looking to raise equity, it's very off-putting to me. Wefunder really like an opportunity for your customers to invest in you, and an opportunity for your friends and family, maybe folks in your professional network. You can cast a really wide net and have more people participate as investors. So it just adds more diversity. It adds more range. It gives you more creative freedom to raise aligned capital that aligns with you and aligns with your business. And I think Wefunder really provides the landing page where you put your campaign, managing all the investment contracts, managing all the compliance, managing all the legal. So we're really just trying to make it easier for founders to be able to fundraise and do it in a way that's more mission aligned and connected to the spirit of the company versus like, if you want to raise from angel investors, you have to look like this.
Right.
And it's like, nah.
Right. And they don't do a lot to help you prepare necessarily for those pitch opportunities. Whereas what I loved about Wefunder is you all just held my hand all the way through. You had everything in line. You just basically take care of any objection that a founder might have to fundraising. I was like, how fast can we do this? And the fact that you had people amazing woman who did my campaign page for me. And she and I really collaborated on that. So it was my voice and my info, but she pulled it all together. I didn't have to think about, because that's not my talent is not building a page that's going to go on somebody else's site. And then, coaching me up on the process and how to get started and what to expect. And you guys were so accessible the whole time, which I think is unusual and really, it's just very inspiring. And I think it just would make it easy for somebody to say yes to fundraising with you all. And then it made it really easy for the people that I started out on the fund with, for them to say yes and start to put money into the fund, which was super exciting. Talk about ringing the sales bell.
Right. I think that the purpose is to educate and to coach and to be encouraging, connect founders to valuable resources. We're a public benefit corporation. Myself at Kiva, my manager, Johnny, we've been working for 12 years, dating back to early Kiva. Our VP of operations, Susanna, dates back to Kiva. Our head of partnerships that works really closely with me dates back to Kiva. So there's a heavy element of kind of like mission around what is the identity of Wefunder and how do we approach our job and what are the types of people we want to hire and how do we make business decisions around being advocates and being champions and being encouraging and just trying to do the right thing by founders. So talk a little bit about like differentiation. Wefunder's doing it a little bit different than anyone else. How do you kind of pinpoint that? What's that nail on the head of kind of why Wefunder seems different than other platforms that essentially do the same thing? Start Engine does the same thing as Wefunder. I think the differentiation is really around mission. And
the team. Your team is incredible, for sure.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So let's talk about some of the savvy secrets that some of your founders have had. What are maybe some common denominators, maybe a fun story or two, maybe something that would inspire the people that are listening to either, if they have a business or want to start a business, to think about this type of funding, or they may know somebody in their circle that they know needs funding, and this would be a great option for them.
There's so many. The one that comes to mind right off the top, because this is something that you mentioned earlier, where it was like, I hired someone to help me tell my story, and I felt that it was in my voice, but she came in to help put it all together and kind of package it in the right way. Through my boat business, one thing that I've learned, and one thing that I really subscribe to as an entrepreneur myself, as somebody that has learned from hundreds of entrepreneurs, pay experts when you do not have that as your core competency. I could not speak more highly around like, you should hire an expert to help you, especially with raising capital, because you should be really confident that you need to raise capital. I am not like a blanket advocate for raising capital. If you can bootstrap and make it work bootstrapping, please do that. But if there is like a lot of examples of where raising growth capital to expand your vision makes sense. And you have to go out into the world and you have to ask for money. And when that point comes and you're super serious about it and you have conviction that this growth capital is going to help you level up, and you haven't raised capital before, because a lot of entrepreneurs haven't raised capital before. This is their first rodeo. They don't know what they're doing. It's like, have someone guide you. I'm doing the same thing with my boat business right now in terms of, hey, I'm hiring a professional to build a new website. I'm hiring a professional to do the social. I'm hiring a professional to do the paid ads. I'm hiring a professional to guide me around the digital marketing, because that isn't my core competency. And when I tried to do it myself, because it was cheaper, it didn't work.
Right. And it's not cheap then.
Exactly. So that's one. It's just like aligning with resources and partners and people that can help you around the fundraising. I think that's one common denominator. Another common denominator, I have a list of 7 mindset traits. I think about everything around mindset because every founder is different. You have founders that have different advantages and different disadvantages and different things that are going well and different things that aren't going well. So it's hard to say common denominator across like all these different industries and all these different stages of founders that I've seen and worked with. But mindset is something that is consistent across all industries and all stages. And just a couple of those pieces, it's like, let's start with positivity.
Yeah, just for sure.
Being a founder is super hard, and you face obstacles. And if those obstacles make you negative, you're just not going to last as long as if you're a positive you approach this journey with positivity. I think that's a big one. And it's easier said than done. I appreciate the pain. It's like easy to say, be positive. It's hard to actually do it. But it's like, that takes a lot of, for me, it took a lot of work to build that inside of me, because that wasn't natural for me.
One of the things I love still about being a business owner is I love to solve problems. I think obstacles, I think of obstacles as like an obstacle race. If I was running an obstacle race and I ran into a wall, I wouldn't say, ugh, I quit or I can't do this. I would say, okay, what am I going to do here? Am I going to climb over it? Am I going to find a rope and use a rope? Am I going to find somebody's shoulders to stand on? Am I going to dig under it? Am I going to go around it? And how am I going to deal with this wall? And I think that's a way that entrepreneurs can think about problems and challenges instead of it being like something went wrong, I have to quit. Because if if an entrepreneur quits, then they weren't meant to be an entrepreneur necessarily anyway.
Yeah. And that's the case for a lot of folks, and that's okay. That's not a bad thing. There's not a right or wrong type of person that you should be. The founder type is a very specific type where it's like, hey, you have to be resilient. You have to have confidence. You have to have conviction. You have to be positive. You have to embrace the challenges and the obstacles. And if you're not that, that's okay.
Yeah.
Being a founder isn't for everyone.
You hire somebody under you that does have that quality.
For sure.
And you be the money person, or you be whatever your core competency is.
The single best decision I made as an entrepreneur myself was finding a co-founder. Finding a co-founder that complemented me in certain areas where I was never going to get there was the difference between me being in year 7 and me dying at year 2. 100%.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. But the beauty of Wefunder is that you can you pattern match. I'm probably talking to 10 founders a day on average.
Wow.
So I don't know what that extrapolates out to over 5 years, but it's a lot. And I love that it's a 9-month cycle. So from first conversation to last conversation, you're talking once every couple weeks for 9 months. And you really just develop really close friendships where it's not you're not just talking about fundraising. You're talking about how are things going. You're learning about their business. You're learning about how they approach problems. You're hitting the good, the bad, the beautiful, the ugly. And you're just getting tons of little signals of like, this is what success looks like. This is what failure looks like. And not failure, but there is definitely a common trend when it comes to successes that I see. And the other element of that is beautiful being in year 5, where it's like, hey, you've now seen entrepreneurs, and a few friends at Kiva where it's like, I've seen them develop over 10 years. That evolution of the business story is very, very fun and interesting and engaging for me as a human.
It's been exciting just learning more and more about Wefunder. Where do you see Wefunder itself and also the industry around funding for entrepreneurs? Where do you see that going in the next 3 to 5 years?
The aspiration is that Wefunder is very normalized across all types of businesses and all types of industries. And it's just kind of a no-brainer that whenever that time comes that you need to raise capital, you can do it in a very like mission-aligned way. And Wefunder makes it very easy. And Wefunder becomes a no-brainer for founders. We aren't there. I hope that in 5 years, 5 years ago, it's linear.
Yeah.
It's not exponential. There are exponential kind of inflection points where it's like the SEC could come in and be like, hey, you don't need to get reviewed financials as part of the legal requirements to raise from investors on Wefunder. If that happened, it would change the trajectory of our business very, very quickly.
Oh, sure.
I think that there's kind of cool catalytic inflection points that could come in from a regulatory perspective where it's like, hey, the government is making it easier and easier for founders to be able to bring capital in. And we're just going to keep chipping away, and it's deal by deal. I look at it, it's like, hey, for every single success story that happens on Wefunder, we're one step closer to that idealized vision of this is normalized across businesses across America.
And are you seeing yet, I think I know the answer to this, but are you seeing yet successful founders who are successful raising funds and becoming more successful as founders, then turning around and investing in your community and the businesses that are in your community?
It's a huge web. So you have 1 million investors. Yeah. You have 13,000 transactions in April.
Wow.
You have hundreds of founders that are fundraising. That's a lot of activity.
Yeah.
That's a lot of opportunity. So the beauty really is getting that random text of, I got a stranger invested $50K. I didn't even talk to them.
Yeah.
This person connected me to the CEO of Beanie Babies. Like, I'm so stoked.
Yeah, that's so awesome.
This random person. And since my uncle texting me saying, hey, I went to That's So Sweet and their cookies are so delicious. That to me is the beauty of the web. And it's these like micro interactions that happen where it's like many of them are kind of meaningless, but there's enough of them where like even a small portion of them being like meaningful, rich connections just make our society and world a little more vibrant, I think.
Right. No, for sure. I mean, I felt like I just had a huge fan club within Wefunder, and I was barely getting started. And I thought that was probably one of the most encouraging parts of doing this was, well, shoot, if all these people believe in me and all these people believe in all these other companies, then this is so doable. And why not get rolling on this?
There's merits and it takes a village.
Yeah.
And it's just like more people participating and more people engaging in this way. I think it's good for our society. I
no question.
Strongly double click on that.
Yeah. And I think you're right that this really helps. It helps all founders, but it really helps those of us that big equity venture kind of capital or angel funding isn't necessarily super easy for us to access. So I think this is just a great way to do it. It's comfortable. You don't feel like you have one entity that's sort of owning you. It's definitely like an entire family of people giving little bits and big chunks and little chunks. And so I just really hope that we can see more and more of our entrepreneurs in the greater Cincinnati region using Wefunder. I'm going to keep helping you find those because we have a pretty rich community, particularly in, well, really in a lot of industries too. So it's not just small businesses, but we have a lot of those. But there are a lot of, wide variety of business around here.
One of my aspirations at Wefunder, we came out of Y Combinator. We're based in San Francisco. We have a strong foothold with a lot of early stage funds and angel investor groups and tech companies that are coming out of Y Combinator and they want to be the next unicorn and billion-dollar company. And I applaud whoever is going into entrepreneurship, like good on you. If that's your aspiration, go for it. What gets me really jazzed about Wefunder's potential and my role at Wefunder is small businesses and all of the community businesses in little pockets around the country. That to me is more connected to me as an individual, and where I think the bigger opportunity is for Wefunder is really breaking into the small business network around this country and having them utilize platforms like Wefunder.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, small business is just the tapestry of our country. It's right. Really what makes our communities. And on the other hand, every large, ginormous business at one point was a small business. You got to start somewhere. And I always use, being in Cincinnati, the example of Procter and Gamble were two men that started a very small company. And now look at it, it's one of the biggest global CPG companies in the world. Right. Everybody starts somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, it's been great fun having you. And I'm really excited to have our listeners learn more and more about Wefunder. And hopefully we'll get to interview some of your companies that maybe have exited or really, really grown, or maybe somebody who's just getting started one of these days too. But I have a couple questions for you so that our community can know a little bit more about Justin Renfro. And I'm going to remind people too, when you go to San Diego, look up Chill Charters and take a boat ride. I'm going to do that. I love San Diego. It's a beautiful place.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've got a few questions that I'd like to ask people at the end of our episode. So I'm going to ask you all three because you're sort of like the lightning round kind of guy. What are a few of your favorite life hacks?
I've got a couple life hacks that I really deeply subscribe to, but the one that I'll really highlight and emphasize is, and I think this is especially true for startup founders and people pursuing entrepreneurship, it can be chaotic. Life is fast. There's a lot going on, and you can get sucked into the weeds real easily. It is very, and I think this applies across across every like human on planet Earth. There's a busyness to life. And I think that technology and AI is just extrapolating the noise and the busyness and the chaos to a certain extent. And I think in our society, especially in the States and where we're at, it's so important to take a step back and take an eagle's eye view and have perspective and pull yourself out of the weeds. So whatever that forcing function is to get out of the weeds. For me, I write. I'm a big writer. I've got a blog where I write about music and I write about nature and I write about my life and I write about work. Writing is my outlet. Psychedelics is also an outlet for me, where that's a very like healthy way for me to pull out, whether through the lens of nature or music. It gives me the ability to kind of think about stuff differently. I see that as like my biggest competitive advantage is my ability to kind of like tune the dial and course correct on a frequent basis. I think too many people in our society never take that step out and they're not intentional with it.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you need to be intentional to pull yourself out if you live in chaos. And I think a lot of us do live in chaos and don't pull ourselves out.
What's the name of your blog? I'm going to put it in the show notes.
Life is Cool by Jado.com. Life is Cool is kind of the new tagline. I started with Stay Positive, then I got Chill Charters, then we got Good Vibes on the LinkedIn, and then we got Life is Cool. So I'm very defined in the energy I'm putting out into the world.
I like it. Okay. So since you talked about music as being something that helps you course correct and get the big picture, what would you consider to be your walk-on song?
So I got married 2 years ago. I believe that the status quo when you're getting married is the bride walks down the aisle to a song. And that's like a very cool experience for all of us to see a bride walk down the aisle to a song, teary-eyed, everybody stands up. It's cool. I wanted to also walk down the aisle to a song.
I love it.
So I chose, and I think I really pulled a quick one on the 120 people that were at my wedding. I went with For Whom the Bell Tolls by Metallica. My favorite walkout song. Yeah, I have a huge Metallica stamp on my back. I was really rooted in moshing and thrash and aggressive music growing up. So Metallica is kind of the godfather of my music library. They will always be the best that music can be. And For Whom the Bell Tolls is quite possibly the greatest song ever made.
Oh. Now, did you warn your bride you were going to do this? Or was it a surprise?
We had been together for 14 years. Oh. So at this point,
nothing surprises
there's
her.
Not too many surprises. He just has to deal with me.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing. Okay, so your last fun question. You're going to sleep tonight, and in the morning, you're going to wake up somewhere else in the world. Where is that?
I'm kind of a nature nerd. I love nature. I love long backpacking trips. I love big, scary expeditions in the middle of the desert. That's kind of my whole thing. I would love, because I was thinking about it, it's like, where would I want to wake up? Well, first off, it would definitely be in a tent. Then it's basically like, where is the tent? And it's like, I've got like 800 places on my list that I love. But where I would love to wake up tomorrow morning is one of those hanging tents off of a huge rock face. There's like cool videos on documentaries on YouTube of people climbing in Yosemite. They'll do multi-day hikes where they sleep in a hanging tent off of a massive rock face. I've never done that before, but that to me would be the most exhilarating, like wake up, hang the legs, drink some coffee, and somehow make it up the mountain. I'm not a rock climber, so that's a little scary about kind of like where do you go from there? But I'm sure there's like some healthy middle ground where there'd be like
just as long as you're not a sleepwalker.
right. Totally.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, you're much more daring than me. I was going to wake up in New Zealand. I mostly want to wake up there because I don't want to have to do the plane ride over there. I just want to wake up there.
I like that. There's no wrong answers.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
If you could take any animal and grow or shrink it to any size, assuming it's as domesticated as a dog, what animal would you choose and what size would you either grow or shrink it to?
Ooh, gosh. Oh, I love so many different kinds of animals. I think it would be really cool to have a lion that was safe and not going to bite my head off.
Same size? Grow it? Shrink it?
I think I would. Yeah, I think I'd like it to be a little smaller just so that it could hang out in the house and not knock all the furniture over and stuff.
More manageable poops.
Yeah, and definitely housebroken, please.
But it's like a dog. It's a domesticated dog.
Okay, I would say like I would love to have a lion. I think that would be so cool, and I think it would be fun if it was super gentle but scary when it needed to be. If anybody tried to break in my house, oh man, don't go there. She's got a lion.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Put little kids on its back and let little kids ride around on it and use it as a pillow on the floor when you're watching TV. That'd be pretty awesome. That's a great question. Nobody's ever asked me that one before. Yeah.
Go-to icebreaker.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I was born in March, so maybe that's why I like lions.
Nice. I'll be in Botswana 1 week from today. I'll be chilling with the lions. I'll tell them you say hi.
Please do. Yeah. Yeah. There's probably one in there that's like, wait, take me home because Nancy invited me to her house.
For sure.
That's awesome. Well, this has been great fun, Justin. Looking forward to having you back one of these days. We'll definitely be staying in touch for sure. I know that our listeners will really enjoy this time with you. Thanks again.
Thank you for having me. I had a great time and feel free to connect again.